Hi, my name's Frank Turner. I'm at Sonisphere Festival, which is awesome, and I've just presented a classic album Sunday talking about Iron Maiden's Killers at great length, which is fine because it's one of my favourite records. Let's hear it for Killers! Yeah! Start off with a story. I was a kid. I wasn't really into music at all. I didn't really know about music. My older sister wasn't really into it, and I was into Games Workshop. And I was at a friend of mine's house, and his older brother had the Stranger in a Strange Land poster on a wall. And I looked at it and I thought, that is a zombie cowboy in the future, and that whatever that is, I want in. And I didn't even know it was a band. And he told me it was a band, and I mentioned it to my dad. And my dad bought me a cassette copy of Killers from the archives at Waterloo Station on his way home from work, and he gave it to me. And to this day, and this isn't even a joke, he regards that as his central error in parenting. To me, like the Ides of March, the opening track of this is still, that is what rock music is. Like just that intro with the drums and the guitar solos and everything, and like it's just the sound of my life changing to me. So yeah, it's always going to be like one of my favourite records for that reason. But like now, being a bit older and knowing all of Maiden's back catalogue and of course lots of other bands as well, I still come back to this as I think it's probably my favourite Maiden record. For me, it's either this or Seventh Son, but I reckon it's probably this because to me it's the sound of a band. They're still kind of a London band. They're still a club band when they made this record. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not kind of an international stadium rock act. They sound like they're from London, and they sound kind of vicious and they sound dangerous and they sound evil, and I love it. And yeah, it's got most of my favourite Maiden songs on it as well, including Murders in the Rue Morgue, my all-time favourite Iron Maiden song. I've tried to convince the guys in my band to rehearse a cover of that for today, but apparently it's too hard. It's you know, it's the first record they made with Martin Birch, obviously, and it's the last record they made with Paul Di'Anno, so it kind of captures a certain kind of period in Maiden's development when I think their early lineup kind of came together, because the first record's got a lot of classic songs, but there's sort of something a bit weird about it. Dennis Stratton, no offence to the guy, but yeah, so it's kind of, it's the sort of archetypal early Maiden record to me. Paul Di'Anno, there's a million things you can say about Paul Di'Anno, right? But like on this record in particular, I think he's kind of at his absolute prime. Like I say, he sounds kind of evil, sounds kind of threatening. He's got a bit of that sort of like punk feel to it. I know that's a controversial thing to say, but there's kind of a blues rock vibe to it as well. And yeah, it just sort of gives it a certain kind of tone, a certain kind of like atmosphere that I think later Maiden records didn't necessarily have. They had something else instead, but that was important to me. I think there's the whole thing about punk rock in this record as well. I grew up personally and went on to fall in love with punk rock, and you could make an argument that part of the reason I love this record is because of that. But I mean, as I'm sure everyone knows, right, there's that huge debate about whether or not Maiden were influenced by punk. They all say no. They're hilariously unreconstructed about it. I love it. See interviews with Steve Harris, he's like, no. But I think that, to me, the thing about this record and about punk rock is that, like, I feel like they were influenced by the same kind of prevailing trends that were happening at that period in musical history, not necessarily by the bands directly, but it's compared to a lot of the rock music that was around before it, it's short and it's to the point and it's kind of vicious and it's fast in a way that, like, you know, ELP isn't, or whatever, you know what I mean? And I think that kind of lends it it sets it apart from a lot of the other new wave British heavy metal stuff for me. It's got that kind of edge to it. And I mean, one of the reasons I love Maiden, this is one of my music theories, which I came up with while stoned, is that, to me, I feel like one of the reasons I love Maiden is that punk was promised to the world, to me, as being kind of like fashion-proof, kind of underground, like unpretentious, fast, vicious, aggressive music for just everybody. And in a way, punk never really was that because it was such a kind of fashion-influenced movement, whereas Maiden actually were and still are. And that's the reason why people are passionate about Maiden now, is because it's unpretentious, it's fast, it gives you everything you want, it's heavy, and it's open to everybody and it's non-judgmental. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you're a Maiden fan, you're a fucking Maiden fan, and nothing else matters. And I've always loved that, you know. And it's just a welcoming thing to be in a room full of Maiden fans. I fucking love it. A room full of Maiden fans can in some ways be quite intimidating, particularly because of the kind of music that I play now. There are people who kind of from the Maiden tribe who think that I should still be playing metal if I was a real Maiden fan, kind of thing. But on the flip side of that is Maiden fans are a community. Do you know what I mean? And like, there's nothing cooler than sitting in a room full of people who love Maiden talking about Maiden in a way. So it was a good time. It was a nice sound system. I mean, I enjoyed seeing vinyl being played through valves. That's always a good thing. I don't have £100,000 to spend on a record system myself, but it was nice to see when it acts in. I mean, this is my biggest festival appearance this summer, so that's cool. You know, there are a couple of friends who said, oh, how's it going to be? You're playing at a metal festival and you've got an acoustic guitar and playing kind of like folk and country influenced music. And the thing is, I mean, I guess it might not be to absolutely everybody in the field's taste, but among other things, like, there's no point in me trying to compete with Anthrax, so I'm not going to do that. And secondly, I got booked to do what I do, and I'm going to do what I do, and if other people don't like it, go fuck them. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to do what I do to the best of my ability, and I like to think that it's got a kind of a sense of grit to it that comes from growing up with punk and metal, and if it doesn't, well, people can get over it.